If you are in a survival season, you know that one of your biggest enemies is your smartphone. It can be the thing that just helps you escape from your world, hide from your problems, and therefore they just keep getting bigger. They definitely don't go away, and things are not improving. It can waste your time, kill your energy, and also just make your mind so cloudy and foggy and not able to think well because you're off into some other person's, life as you're on social media or just binging, and it just kind of puts you in a numb state, which in some ways feels good because you're getting these dopamine hits all the time, but really it's just compounding the problems in your real life and making it harder and harder. So today I want to talk about how I have set up my phone to support me in this postpartum season where I'm not sleeping more than 2 or 3 hours at a time, and we're doing homeschool, and there's a lot happening as a mom with 5 kids. Let's dive in.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation, and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
If you are in survival mode right now, or feel like you're just surviving motherhood and you want to get to a spot where you are enjoying your life, where you wake up excited for the day, where you feel like you've got a smooth running household where the kids are helping you and you can get the things that you need and want to done, I want to invite you to check out the 5-step path from surviving to thriving checklist. This is a guide that I created to help you walk along the very real path that it takes to be able to go from those survival seasons, those survival days, to living that wonderful, thriving life. You can get it at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/checklist. Let's talk and jump right into setting up your smartphone to support you. So the very first step actually is to figure out your priorities. What matters to you? What is going to help you show up as your best self? Because if we don't have a good, clear why or purpose of how we want to be using our time and energy, it kind of doesn't matter for scrolling, right? We got to start with the vision. Now, this is really key here. We're going to talk about, I'm going to walk you through this framework of the 3 pillars of thriving, because these 3 pillars are what it takes to feel like you're thriving no matter what season of motherhood you are in. And we use these 3 pillars in the Surviving to Thriving toolkit. So I've got tons and tons and tons of resources in there, just all bite size, meant to help you build these 3 pillars in every single phase along the path. But here in this phone example, we're going to start with the first pillar, which is scope, or having a vision. And so we're going to start with the vision for what I want to be doing to take care of myself, because that's often the trade-off with our phones, is instead of taking care of ourselves, we're just escaping. And so that's where we can gain some time back. So for me, as I think about what do I really need to be doing in this survival season for myself, I know that I want to be reading my scriptures. I want to be connecting with God. The way that it helps me in my scripture study connect with God and also kind of clear my mind is through journaling, both just process journaling, writing what's happening, being able to identify my thoughts, as well as journaling in the Thriving in Motherhood journal, helping me keep my mindset right. And if you don't know about the Thriving in Motherhood journal, I've got a playlist of me using it for 31 days and how it impacted me, and I will link that below if you are interested. But being able to journal is super important to helping me experience my life, my motherhood differently and with a lot of joy. And then exercise. Okay, I've got a postpartum body. I've got to rebuild and just heal my core, my muscles, all of these things. And so I want to start real simple, real basic, and gentle, but intentionally, build up that exercise. And then also get myself dressed and ready for the day. I do not want to be in pajamas all day. We've got things going on here, and I will feel much better showing up for schooling with my 4 older kids or going out inside, or any of those things are just easier when you're dressed and ready for the day. So those are my essentials. As I think about scope, what is essential to me? It's going to be the exercise, the scriptures, the journaling, and getting myself ready for the day. The problem is, and I have tested this in the last 3 weeks since having a baby is the moment I touch my phone, it's too easy to go down rabbit holes that you didn't mean to go down, and you lost your chance. I lose my chance. I lose my chance to do those basic things, and it can get to the end of the day and I don't get to them. So now we're going to implement some structure, right? I have scope. I've got vision for where I want to go. My second pillar is structure. We're going to put a system in place to make this happen, okay? So my first thing here, and if you have watched any of my other phone videos, you know I love Niagara Launcher. It changes my basic, the basic phone configuration to being able to have a black background. You can actually have tons of things, but I chose to just have a black background and then have a list of favorite apps in the front. Now, if I swipe over here, you can see you can still have a bunch of apps on your phone, but I try and stay pretty much just in this favorites list right here. And what I've done is I've sorted it based on my priorities. So the first chunk is using my phone as I feel like a pretty standard phone app. I've got the weather on there. I've got a phone so I can make phone calls, messages so I can text people, calendar so I can check my Google Calendar. That's how my husband and I stay on track. That's what I use it for. Anything that's scheduled that I want Andrew to know about, and any of his stuff scheduled he wants me to know about, we share on a Google Calendar. I do all of my planning, however, in my Thriving in Motherhood planner. Then I've got the Maps app so I can navigate around all of the places we go, the camera app, photos. And then we get to, so in my mind, the first chunk is kind of just like your most basic smartphone features, right? But then I've got my priorities. So I've got my app for my scriptures. I've got my app for exercise. I'm using Studio Bloom for postpartum for those of you that are curious. And then I have Libby, which is audiobooks that I like to listen to before I take a nap every day. And then Notion, because I have the second brain that is part of the Surviving to Thriving toolkit. And I don't do a ton with it on my phone, but occasionally I do like to put notes in or reference it as needed. Okay. So now that is how I've set it up. That's my system. And so before I do anything else, and the reason why it's so powerful is because it might take me all day long. When I'm not waking up before my kids, I've got the system in place to say, okay, have I read my scriptures today? Have I journaled today? Have I exercised today? If the answer is no, then it's not time to do something else, right? This is what I'm going to do first. When I have a window, when I have an opportunity, I'm going to do one of these things to help take care of myself first and let everything fall, in line after that. And so some days I might not do much more than take care of myself and everybody else's things that have going on. But you better believe that I want to be doing that before I'm watching a YouTube video or scrolling social media or actually, I really don't like doing that at all, but you get the point. When I'm tired, that's when you're like, how did I end up here? I don't do this anymore. So that is how I've got that set up. Or even checking email. Honestly, email is that's probably my bigger thing. Before I check email, I want to be doing all this. Okay, so the third pillar is soul. Okay, and this is our taking care of your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health. So in this case, this is probably a whole soul pillar exercise here. We caught the vision. We were able to use a vision for what we wanted to do, take care of ourselves, and not be jumping down someone else's priority list through our emails or any of the other platforms that are marketing things to you. And then creating the system and structure around it. But I will say, part of that soul structure is our mindset. And so this is where, if you don't believe it, or that you can do it, or that you can manage exercise or any of these things, this is where we really do need to strengthen our soul pillar and think about our mindset and our belief that we can make time for this. And so there's a lot of thoughts that I've had to work through here as I even think about, I'm not consistent every day with exercise. Well, why is that? Okay, that's really the strength of this pillar, is we go through and we're asking ourselves, why? Why is this not working for me? Why am I not getting to this? And I'm realizing, it's because I have this belief that I can only exercise if I'm totally by myself or if the baby's sleeping. Is that true? Right? I need to challenge these thoughts, these objections that I have, and go over, is that really true? Yeah, no, that's not really true. What are my other options? I could think bigger here. I could think differently here. And in the Surviving to Thriving toolkit, I just recorded a whole lesson about identifying our thoughts and overcoming those and challenging those objections and assumptions that we have, and if things are even true, or because that and that can tank me postpartum. So I held nothing back. But I want to encourage you right now to take a moment. If you're driving or folding laundry, I understand that maybe this is not the moment, but you can even just leave a comment on the YouTube video down below. And I would love to hear, okay, what are you saying are going to be your priorities for yourself before you're going to hop on checking your email, whatever your technology thing is, right? We all have our own thing. Maybe for you it's email. Maybe for you it's a Netflix show. Maybe for you it's Instagram. Like, what is your thing that can be your time suck? Maybe it's Pinterest, or I don't know. There's so many options these days, okay? What are you going to be your 3, maybe 4, no more than 4 things that you're going to do before you touch any of those other options? And the reason why I say no more than 4 is not because you shouldn't do other things before you get on your technology. You can have as many things as you want before you get on technology. But if you're in a survival season, I don't want your list to be so long that you can't remember it, or you feel overwhelmed, or you're like, I can't get to this, or your priorities become muddled, okay? So you just need to become really clear. You can make a long list, but what are the 3 or 4 things that are your non-negotiables that you're going to aim for every day, or even most of the week, or some of the week, okay? Because I'm not hitting mine every day, but I know every day this is what I would like to do. And so no more than 3 or 4. And then write down what's your system going to be for that. Now, I shared how I set up my phone using Niagara Launcher. You can do something else, but are there specific apps or ways that you can make it easier for you to do the things that you want to do? That's the key. Maybe for you, it isn't setting up your phone that way. Maybe for you, it includes things like making sure you've got your exercise clothes out, or I've got a whole, as part of the toolkit, you get access to Mom Matters too, and we go deep into every single habit and why it's hard to do it and how to make it stick and all of those things, okay? So if you need help, we're getting too long. I've got hours of training on that. And then finally, mindset. Can you identify a thought or 2 that's preventing you from doing those 3 or 4 things that you wanted to do? What is hard for you, and how can you start to address and look at those? So I wish you luck in getting things set up so that you can have your phone support you in the survival season. And if you want more help, definitely get the checklist at thrivingandmotherhoodpodcast.com/checklist, or I'd love to help you in the Surviving to Thriving Toolkit at survivingtothrivingtoolkit.com as well, to just support you through this survival season so you don't feel so alone and you feel very equipped with lots of things that you can do in your circle of influence to make this season better while you work your way towards thriving again.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.